we had a few books about World War One, and we done a review on them. And then we looked at a few World War One artefacts and made some World War One Christmas cards.
Well, one of the rooms we met loads of elderly people with like loads of artefacts and loads of things from the war, and they told us what they were used for and how they used them, and people they knew that used them and things. And we made loads of cards and things.
We split ourselves into different groups, and one group went to read books. Then the other group went to look at our guns, and there was card making as well. We read some books, and we explained what we liked most about the books that we read.
Me and my partner looked at a pack with all different things from the war in there, like posters and postcards.
Well, it was about two best friends that have a really good life together, and they always go around to a field with loads of poppies and roses, red roses and things, and then they go to war together, the First World War, and they get through it together, and after the war they see all the roses on the battlefield that they were fighting on against the Germans, and they live on together as best friends.
About it was called war game, and about these boys wanted to go to war, but they thought it was good, but it wasn't actually when they went.
Nothing would happen, but
It was they thought it was like a holiday to them. I think they played football.
they played football.
Christmas truce where everyone put their guns down.
It was about when Britain and Germany came together and played football.
I had a package with stamps, postcards and different things they had in World War One, and ration boxes. Well, there was one lady who remembered being a young child in World War Two and how scary it was when the World War sirens went off, and what it was like when they had rations after. Well, we've learned a lot about the Blitz. Well, 1/3 of London was destroyed, and there was one of the streets that was affected the most was renamed Blitz Street.
Her great uncle's leg on the chair.
And when the air raid shelter alarm went off, he didn't really know what it was, so he went to his bedroom window, or like a flat window, and he looked out, and then he seen the German bombers coming over, so he went to the air raid shelter.
Where basically one of the older women, she was about 18 when it happened, and she was working to make up the weapons. And she walked out one day and there was a bomb not far away from where she was working, and it went off right next to her, right next to the place, and she heard it and she felt the ground shaking beneath her.
Well, the two women had really good stories. One about their uncles and how they were fighting in the war, and happily they come back. And one of them, there was an old woman when she was younger. She had a house, and there was a bomb, like a mine, planted next to her house, and it went off on the roof, and it all collapsed onto her bed, and she had to get into the shelter next to her house, and she was safe then. But she had to have loads of things done to her room, the house.
I remember one woman telling me about when she was only about 5 or 6, and she came out of the shelter, and it was everything had been blown up, and it was all rubble and destruction, but she had no shoes, and she was walking through the streets, and she eventually managed to get a pair of shoes, and then she just carried on walking until she got away from the place.
Where she told us that every time a plane flew past, she would scream on the floor and start crying.
And whenever the plane went past, she went down into the air aid, and then she clung on to her mum.
One of them is even though some of the old elderly people back in like World War One and World War Two, even though they didn't go to war and they didn't accept it, or the people that wanted to go to war but couldn't because they were too old, like they tried to help as much as possible in factories and help with the ammunition and everything, so their husbands and uncles and people that they knew and everything could get back safely and hopefully win the war for their country.
I thought it was amazing how, even though it was so many years ago, they still have such clear memories of it.
Yeah, I like holding the gun and wearing the helmet.
That Vacilia met her husband in the war.
And the sound of guns and holding the bullets and stuff.